Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology. We're going to take a look at the astrological transits tied to October 2nd to October 8th. I'm going to be clear, I've recorded this quite a few times, but I've been having issues with internet service and internet router. I really think I just need to get a different router box. So I'm going to do my best for this 15,000th time to work appropriately. Super fun. There are situations that occurred this last week during the full moon in Aries. There were events and actions that occurred that are going to lead to a course of reactions. Some people haven't had the full effect kick in. And we need a very specific event to happen. For a lot of people, that event is coming either late on Sunday evening going into this week, or it's actually going to happen on Monday. And when it comes to the transits perfect on Monday. There's a lot of energy in the atmosphere. We have had some type of activity, some type of action, some type of event that in that moment we didn't quite know how to take it. We weren't expecting it. But once it occurred, it wasn't terrible. Need some time to think. Made us think. And in some ways, that thinking is going to lead to a very nostalgic energy to this week. I say nostalgic because there will be some people that they're just kind of stuck in the past. We need to reenact something. We need to go back over something. There is something about the past. Someone from the past. The events of something from the past have been coming back around. They've been bubbling to the surface. And we're going to need to talk about those events. There's going to be some part of this week that is both an energy of reliving a past moment, but with a new part of the situation, with new information, with new things being exchanged. A lot of the exchange, a lot of the new parts are reactions to the recent events. And many of the reactions this week will also lead to some closeouts, some completions, some alleviations of energy, some overcoming some things in some ways. But for some of the others, it's going to lead to more events, heavier events. Because what we thought we were able to pull off before doesn't have the same effect this time. In late August, right as Mercury was turning retrograde, so that was August 23rd when Mercury turned retrograde, Mars hit its opposition to Neptune. It went into a trine with Pluto, and the moon went through Sag and did a square to Mars right before both Mars and the moon changed signs. And it instigated a disruption. And in the events that followed, there was events that required withdrawal or turning around, no longer offering the same levels of support. There's some breakups. The sun, just a month later, did the exact same situation. It went into the opposition to Neptune. It hit that trine to Pluto. The moon went through Sag and hit squares to that sun right before they both changed signs. This week, Mercury will hit its opposition to Neptune, but it will not repeat the same pattern as the previous two. In fact, it's completely different because the moon will be going into Gemini. As Mercury goes through its opposition to Neptune and hits that trine to Pluto, the moon will be going into the mercurial sign. It'll be going into Gemini. Be a lot of things that get spoken, a lot of words that come through, and a lot of things that get spoken, a lot of the words that start to be expressed, a lot of the conversations that are being had, they change the narrative. They make us aware that something is different. What we thought was going on before is not the case. Some of us, we thought we were pulling the wool over somebody's eyes before, and that was not the case. Some of us are starting to realize that the people that we were trusting to do certain jobs, you've burnt that bridge. They're not your employee anymore. And now you need to realize just what you don't know. Some of y'all have been that employee. And you're going to start getting that call from the old boss going like, how do I log into the server? Don't you own the server? I'm a smartass. I would say that. I've said shit like that before. Don't you own the server? Isn't this your server? Da 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 da. I don't need this. I just need you to tell me how to log in. Uh-huh. Yeah. There's a humbling for some people in the energy this week. And that humbling is also going to make us realize a different level of importance, and it's going to reduce elements of the ego. For some people, the reason we're going to have a reduction in the ego is because you're going to get caught doing something. Those levels of fraud and lies and manipulation that people want to pretend haven't been happening. Caught. People that are thinking they've got everything figured out and it don't matter who's in what position, you can always replace them. I've worked for people like that before. You can always replace a salesperson. You can say that, but sometimes it takes you a very long time to find a good salesperson to replace a good salesperson. There is an inquisitiveness. There is communication. There is investigativeness this week. There will be lines in communication that leads to deep dives. In the most mundane sense, that could be super simple. It'd be like, have you heard about this TV show? It's on the thingy. It's on the thingy. Go check it out. You go check out one episode. Next thing you know, you want to like go binge and deep dive every single episode within this series because it's not a new series. It's an old series. Mercury opposite Neptune. In a mundane sense, it can be that. But a non-mundane sense, it can be something else. But there is a part of Monday that really sets the stage to how the rest of the week is going to go. And that energy comes through really first thing Monday morning. So I have the screen, October 2nd, Monday morning at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Mercury, good old Mercury, is in its opposition to Neptune. So between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. is when this opposition is going to perfect. For some people, this is going to be communicating that nostalgia element. At the same time, the moon is going to hit this conjunction to Uranus. Maybe we've been in nostalgia all weekend, and all of a sudden, I think I want to go somewhere. I think I want to go back to someplace I haven't been in a long time. When was the last time you went to the movies? I love the movies. What? I want to do something. It's like an unexpected, I want to go. In some ways, you get a call from somebody or you run into somebody from the past. And it's just a little bit of excitement. Like, oh, I want to catch up soon. I want to talk some more. I can't talk right now. I got to go. But let's catch up soon. And you exchange the numbers. You find their Facebook profile. You find them on social media. There's a discovery. But all of this discovery is not brand new. Mercury is in its home sign, it's in Virgo, but it's also in its exaltation. So not only does he got all the facts and figures, the receipts, he knows he's got all the facts, the figures, and the receipts, and he can recite them front ways and back ways. Documentation is important. Neptune is in Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces. The only negative per se, this isn't really a negative, but it's one, I'm just air quotations when I'm saying this. The only drawback with Neptune is Neptune is retrograde. So Neptune's not providing new information. Mercury is. Mercury is giving fresh eyes, a fresh look, a refreshed perspective, a reality check in the situation. There can be misinformation, a misconstrue, a mistake that suddenly happens and leads to asking questions. For some people, there's going to be something that happens. I don't know why, but this feels like a really strong day to start an audit. But this is not a normal audit. This is the unplanned audit. This means the state just walked in the door and guess what? We want to look at all of your books. Here's the subpoena. Like, oh, crap. Yes. Considering all of these companies that are going through strikes, they haven't been wanting to accept, there's going to be another way that audits can come through, and that is you need to reevaluate the books to find out where we can free up more money, where we can alter this situation, how we can get this rectified faster. And there is an investigative quality that is beginning to be discussed on Monday, but I don't really feel like it plays into the parts until we get into Tuesday. So let's keep going through Monday before we talk about the investigative aspects anymore. But I'm telling you now, on Monday, there is a research investigative type of energy to the situation. We need to get more information. We need to talk. This is the adulty or adult. We need some input. We need help. Some of us were doing the research and the input, and we're looking on the internet. We're Googling everything. Between 3 and 4 p.m., the moon will go through its square with Venus. It goes the most exact, actually between 3:30 and 4:30. And then right after that square perfects, the moon is going to enter a sextile to Neptune. Now, some of us had a really fun weekend. And we went to an event. We went to a concert. We went to the fair. We went to do something. And while we were at that event, we ran into somebody from the past. We had that shock situation. Oh, wow, I haven't seen you in so long. We haven't talked in so long. How have you been? How's everything going? And you vibed for a moment. And in some way, we kind of want to continue the vibe. We want to talk to that person a little bit more. It felt good to reconnect. But we don't know what we don't know, so we get some perspective. The moon is going to sextile Neptune. It's entering a trine with Mercury. But before it does all that, it's going to square Venus. And in some ways, you can talk to your girlfriends about having a really good time. You had that really good event. There's so much fun at the fair, and you already told them that you ran into so-and-so, and you just can't get it off your mind now. You really want to talk to them some more. You really want to reach out, but is it too much? Should I not? Hey, Venus, moon square Venus, what would you do if you were in my shoes? I would be careful. I would do this. I would do that. I would ask questions. I would be sure that I was getting into something that I'm prepared to get into. I also wouldn't give them any slack. Y'all ain't talking 2 years. You ain't talking 6 months. You ain't been talking a long time. Need to bridge that gap, baby. If I was you, I'd be asking questions. I would be sure about what we're getting into. I wouldn't just jump the gun. We're going to ask questions. We're going to ask for an outside perspective. And that will be a big theme going through this week, is the outside perspective, the third party's perspective, the extra perspective. It's not too heavy in the first part of the week. There's some guidance. There's some help right here. But it doesn't fully play out with how the whole week is going to go. We're getting perspective. As we get deeper into the evening, between 5 and 6 p.m., the moon is going to hit the trine to Mercury. Between 7 and 8 p.m., the moon's going to hit the trine to Pluto, basically activating a grand trine, even though we're not in a direct grand trine right here. But there is something being solidified. Now, Mercury, whenever it goes into this trine with Pluto, and Pluto is getting so much closer to ending its retrograde, there is this element of I want to get closer. I want to get deeper. I want to get under the surface. I want to dig. We're talking about a grand trine in the earth signs. I want to dig. I want to know more. I want to know what I don't know. There's a decision getting made somewhere between Monday evening in this grand trine earth energy and Tuesday morning. We want to understand. We want to get past the fear, past the trauma. We want to work through everything. We're willing to work through things, but that's also going to require some communication. It's going to require some thoroughness, so to speak. After the moon goes through its trine with Pluto, the moon's going to go void for the rest of the evening. So again, we're just in the process of making a decision. And we either make it Tuesday or Monday evening, or we're going to make it Tuesday morning. Now, going into Tuesday, October 3rd, at 12:04 a.m. Central Standard Time, that is when the moon is going to go into Gemini. Between 1:30 and 3:30 in the morning, so right after the moon goes into Gemini, I have it at October 3rd at 2 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit this square to Saturn. A couple hours ago, the moon was in a trine to Pluto, and Pluto's in Saturn's sign. Now, the moon is in the square to Saturn. It is somewhere between Monday evening and Tuesday morning that we decide that we're going to take an action, that we're going to do some digging, that we're going to ask the questions, that we're going to do some cyber stalking. We're going to take a closer look. We're going to cut through some shit. We're going to complete something. Some are going to make a decision to complete something, and we're not necessarily going to complete it on the 3rd. But we're going to start working through something. The moon goes into Gemini, and Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, leaves its opposition to Neptune and enters its trine with Pluto. Whatever occurs on Monday sets the stage for what we're researching, what we're talking about, what we're investigating, what we're trying to understand. We are trying to get our bearings about us when it comes to something, and that is meant to be the energy tied to the moon going through Gemini. That's going to be the energy of Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, after the moon goes through its square to Saturn, again, that's happening between 1 and 3:30 in the morning. The other thing that's starting on Tuesday, but does not perfect until Wednesday, is Mars and its conjunction with the South Node. We're digging, we're researching, we're scanning, we're trying to diagnose, we're trying to detect, we're trying to figure something out. There is this under the surface quality that is coming through both between Mercury and its trine to Pluto, but also with Mars and the South Node. Got to cut through some shit, cut through the surface, get underneath. For some people, Mercury's opposition to Neptune is going to be a sudden effect that's going to lead to some level of emergency surgery. And that emergency surgery can be decided anywhere between Tuesday and Wednesday. There can also be some type of innovation, some type of inspiration, a sudden inspiration. And the events that take place this week are going to be the events that lay that situation out, that make something manifest into something else. It really comes down to what happens on Monday morning. Now, Mercury in its trine to Pluto, that is going to perfect between 2 and 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So I have it's October 3rd at 2 p.m. Mercury is at 27 degrees, 52 minutes. I bump it 1 hour, 27 degrees, 57 minutes. That entire time, Pluto's at 27:54. This is whenever the trine perfects. We think we've got something figured out. We think we're getting something understood. We think we're getting closer to figuring something out. We think we're getting to the bottom of something, but we're not entirely sure. We need more time. We need more testing. We need to wrap up the situation. Some of us, if it's the auditor situation, they're getting to the end of the day and like, okay, we'll be back tomorrow. Did you find anything? I'm not at liberty to say. That also is spoken between the moon and its trine to the sun, and this perfects later in the evening. We're not at the quarter moon yet. We're still winding down from the full moon. We're transitioning in certain parts of this situation. We're transitioning in information, and we're really moving towards overcoming something, squashing something, releasing something, coming to terms with something, discovering something that's going on below the surface, something that's not easily recognizable. A lot of the energy of the third carries us into the fourth. So the moon's trine with the sun, that happens between 6 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. They're separated by the time we get to this part. Now we're going to get into the fourth. Keep moving this down. We're going to get to roughly right here. Okay. In the early parts of the day, so between 11 and 11:15, ironically enough, Mars is going to hit its conjunction to the south node. This is where it's exact. Again, the action, getting below the surface, cutting through the shit, cutting through something, realizing something doesn't add up, and making an internal decision to cut somebody off. There's a cutoff energy. There's an elimination energy. There's a completion energy to the fourth. In one way, it's spoken right here when Mars hits the conjunction to the south node, and it solidifies something. Solidifies that something under the surface is incorrect. It solidifies that there are additional actions that need to happen. It solidifies a manifestation. Now, the other thing that is going to talk about that completion and that solidified energy is Mercury. The moon is not void. If any planet was going to be considered void right now, it's Mercury, because Mercury's done making aspects. Mercury is wrapping up its trip through Virgo. And Mercury's wrapping up its trip through Virgo while the moon is in the other mercurial sign. Some of what we are discussing, some of what we are seeing, some of what we are investigating, something that we are talking about is going to lead to an elimination, to a withdrawal, to a cutting off or a cutting out. You're going to fire that client. You're going to fire somebody. And it's going to take until the end of the day before that fully sets in. So I'm going to get closer to that 7 p.m. time first. So October 4th, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Mercury is at 29 degrees, 59 minutes. I bumped this by an hour. Mercury is in Libra. Mercury is changing signs. Some parts of this week make us very, very aware of another situation. And then we're going to be in this energy of once we get to the bottom of something, once we get something figured out, once we get something understood, that the logic, the logical response, the logical answer, the logical way of handling something is going to be not directly. I don't think I need to talk to her anymore. I don't think I need to be a part of this situation directly anymore. I don't need to be their representative. I don't need to be that person. I don't need to be their business partner. Everything they say to me is a lie. Why would I keep dicking with them? I don't want to do that. There's something about late Wednesday that really kind of changes the game. First is the earlier part of the day, Mars' conjunction the South Node. The second one, Mercury changing signs. The third one, right here. So, between 10 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, Neptune is going to square the moon. Between 9:30 p.m. and midnight, the moon is going to sextile Mars. So the moon actually sextiles Mars first. And Mars is fresh off of its conjunction with the South Node. We know a progression needs to be had a certain way, but before we can agree to this elimination, before we can agree to this progression, before we can agree to this activity, I don't know what alleviate. I keep wanting to say like alleviate, which takes me to alleviate for some reason. Before we can agree to this, I need to know more about this over here. Mercury is not seeing Neptune. They're in conjunct of one another. There's a whole wall in between. Of the two of them, the only one that can see them both is the moon. The moon wants to see this action take place. It wants to see the progression. However, it knows that we need to talk about something from the past. We need to get over something. We need to heal a wound. We need to heal the trauma. We need to deal with the event. We need to know the effects. We need to know about what's under the surface. We need to know about the lies. We need to know about the vices. We need to know about the dealings. We need to know something. And before I'm going to allow for any level of progression, Moon trine Mars, you need to tell me the rest of the story. Moon square Neptune. You need to tell me the truth. You need to tell me what I don't know. You need to tell me the rest. And it starts this energy of negotiation. And a big portion of the energy as we go from late Wednesday into Thursday and into Friday has a lot of indirect communication involved. And it really starts right here. This is that first energy of it. We feel like we need to have a discussion. In some ways, we're willing to have the discussion, but we don't want to have it right here. We don't want to have it in the middle of the week. Through text message, no. We need a day or two. I'll answer all of your questions. I'll do what you want. We'll have this conversation, but I don't want to have it here. Can we have dinner this weekend? I just don't want to do it right now. Can we do this weekend? I want us to continue to have this vibe between us. I want us to continue to be strong with one another. I like this feeling. I'm not saying no. I'm saying, can we talk this weekend? And in some ways, there can be an intention here. In other ways, you're seeing two people not getting along. Screw them. I never want to talk to them again. All they ever do is lie. I know why you feel that way. I know. I get it. I understand. But then as soon as Mars is done with its ranting, it's like looking at Neptune. What the hell did you do? What did you do? What did you say? Where did you go? What the hell happened? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to smack the shit out of you. These indirect actions, they're nearly infuriating. And there is this element that there's going to be a third party to a lot of the situations. You need a negotiator. You need a lawyer. You need a teacher. You need a translator. You need somebody to decipher something. After the moon's square with Neptune and the trine with Mars, we get into the 4th, Wednesday the 4th, and the moon is going to hit this sextile to Gemini, or to Venus. The moon in Gemini is going to hit this sextile to Venus in Leo. Hey, how did it go? How's everything been going? How have the conversations been? Well, they've been okay, but we're gonna meet this weekend. We're actually gonna get together this weekend. We're gonna talk more this weekend. Are you sure? Yeah, we're gonna talk more this weekend. We've got an agreement. We're gonna do this weekend. Okay, well, keep me posted. Let me know how everything goes. The moon, sextile Venus is nothing. It's small. It's insignificant. And afterwards, we have the ability to kind of shut down, which is not an easy thing to do when the moon is in an air sign. Some of us will not be able to shut down. We're going to be stuck in our heads and we're going to be up for part of the night. It's not going to be an easy night to sleep. There's going to be a lot of nights this week that are not easy to sleep and specific to whenever the moon is in Gemini. And that's going to be the big portion. Now we get into Thursday. And at 7:32 a.m. Central Standard Time on the 5th, the moon enters Cancer. And I've got the screen at 8 a.m. And as soon as the moon enters Cancer, the moon goes into a square with Mercury. We're going to start having a conversation. We're going to start something. Truly start something. The moon has been going through Mercury's sign for the last 2.5 days while Mercury was making that opposition to Neptune, and Mercury was going through that trine with Pluto. Something happened, something required going underneath the surface, required some investigation, required some digging. And now we need to talk about what was undug. What was dug up? What came to the surface? What was revealed? What was found? The moon square with Mercury is asking questions, asking for information. It's asking for ideas. It's trying to get a better idea of how something had went. At the same time, the moon will also go through a trine with Saturn. Now this goes the most exact around 10 a.m. So a big portion of the morning's energy is tied up in this right here. Mercury and Saturn, they're not seeing eye to eye. Again, they're in conjunct. They're within a quincunx of one another. They are not seeing eye to eye. So Mars can't understand Neptune, and Mercury can't understand Saturn. Poor Pisces. Pisces placements are not going to feel understood. They're not going to feel understood this week. They're just not. The only way to make an understanding happen, to break through the wall, to break through the barrier, is to have an additional person, to have an extra hand. Can you talk to so-and-so and see if they'd be willing to, unblock me? Why do I want to do that? Can you help me with this? I don't. There's something in the early parts of the day that it feels like it's time to communicate, but we can't directly have this communication. We can't directly work through this. There's a protective order. There's something in the middle. There's a barrier. There's a wall. And we need the extra person to get this message over to another person, to put something in perspective. I need to talk to an adultier adult. Well, there's none here right now, but I think I know where one is. Can you help? The only way the communication is being had is by having the extra person. Some of us, we're the extra person. We've been beside somebody's side the whole time, seeing how the effects of something was impacting their body. And that person now can't voice what's wrong with them. So they need the extra person. If I was to leave my mom in charge of her doctor's appointments, she knows this too. I'm not saying anything that she does not know. Like, if I was to leave her in charge of her doctor's appointments, she wouldn't have a doctor. She wouldn't have a nursing, she wouldn't have doctors. She has to have an intermediary. She has to have somebody else to have those conversations. This is one of those things. This can also be another mundane way to explain this, is like, we're trying to type something up. I'm trying to send this email. I'm trying to put this attachment to this email. It's like from the elder Saturn, the elder situation. I want to send this picture to Susie. How do I do it? Well, Grandpa, I'm at school right now, but can this wait until I get out of school? Can you save it to drafts? What's a draft? Oh my God, just stop touching it. Stop touching it. I'll mess with it when I get home, okay? As soon as I get home, I'll help you do it. Just don't touch anything else. Just don't. Do I close the window? No, don't even close the window. Just walk away from the computer. That's a real conversation I've had in the past. With more than one person. I have to do that with my neighbor sometimes. He's a cute old man. We'll get to the point where we can deal with something later in the day. After parts of the morning transits, there's not a whole lot going on. But what we will be dealing with is our feelings. If we just made the decision to cut somebody off, if we've just made the decision to no longer be a part of something, there's feelings and emotions even to toxic breakups. There's some emotion. The moon is in Cancer. We're starting to feel the buildup of an emotion. We've talked ourselves through a situation front ways and back ways, and it just didn't happen. And as the moon goes deeper into Cancer, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of working through and processing of emotions. Now, as we get into Friday, so Thursday and Friday are not heavy days. They're really not. We get to one particular part of the day on Friday. That's going to be roughly here. So I have this Friday, October 6th at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. The moon has just perfected its square with the sun. This is the last quarter moon. And everything winding down from this point is winding down towards the eclipse, the new moon eclipse in Libra. This is that halfway point between the Aries full moon and the new moon in Libra. This is an energy that's meant to indicate a winding down. However, it is also another part of the transit that indicates a third party having communication with two other people that can't see eye to eye. The moon is going to square the sun. The moon is also in a sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter's retrograde. Hey, so-and-so's been kind of acting funny. So-and-so's been doing things. Are you sure you're not willing to talk to her? Nope, not willing to talk at all. Don't want to, nope. That's the sextile with Jupiter. Not my pig, not my farm. The moon and the square to the sun, we're very, very aware that a dynamic is coming to a peak while at the same time coming to a close. And that energy really starts to play out. You feel the angst build up a little bit as Friday progresses, but there's nothing about Friday that screams, this is that. With exception to one element. So I'm going to get to a later part of Friday just to kind of show you this. Venus, 28 degrees, right here. Venus starts to go over her point of shadow between Friday evening and Saturday morning. And I feel like the first part of Venus going over its point of shadow is an element of activation. Internalized activation. The internalized, though, will not last forever, and it will turn into an actual activation. That first one, small one, can kind of come through here. Uranus and its sextile to the moon. Venus has still not crossed her point of shadow, and Uranus is in Venus' sign. So we have this sudden idea, this sudden communication, this little technological thing. You get a DM from somebody, just kind of like, hey, you want to do something? Hey, how did this go? Hey, how have you been? Hey, here's a TikTok. It's not heavy. It's really not. But there can be that little message that comes through that triggers a reaction. You see something in your feed. Even though you got so-and-so blocked, like all of a sudden you see they've been hanging out with your brother and your brother posted pictures and you're like, you fucker, why would you even do that? I don't. They didn't do it to you, but you can still get salty about it. People get salty about stuff like that all the time. It doesn't need to be a heavy trigger. It's not meant to be a heavy trigger, but there can be something that kind of triggers. Now, as we get into the morning, the moon is going to square the nodes right as the moon is entering the sextile with Neptune. So the moon square to the nodes is going to be exact around 8:23 a.m. Central Standard Time, so about 30 minutes after where I've got it on the screen. The moon's trine with Neptune will go the most exact between 11:45 and 11:15 a.m. The moon's square with Mars is going to happen around 11:15 to 1:45. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this to noon. I'm going to leave it alone. So again, moon's going to trine Neptune. This is that nostalgic element. This can be something tied to earlier in the week. But there can also be that something internally kind of bubbling up to the surface. And I just want to get to one element and then I'm going to stop the screen. And that is, roughly here, between 1 and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Venus is going over her point of shadow. Venus is getting restless, and Venus is frazzled. She's been going through Leo since June. Since the start of Virgo season, she's been by herself. And little by little, there has been withdrawal. And we've all been in this situation where we've been seeing a certain person have certain things happening. And just little by little, like, just the support has gone away. And now we're hitting this part of the energy, and it's almost a bit of a peak for Venus. But there's another part of this energy too. And that is, it's a reactivation from the start of Venus's retrograde. So I want to think back to July 17th to July 23rd, so that whole week. Pluto was at 29 degrees, the new moon in Cancer perfected, and then the nodes changed signs and immediately started to square Pluto. Pressure. High amount of pressure on Pluto, on Plutonian things, on things going on below the surface. That pressure was felt for a while, even though it wasn't fully voiced. We were very aware of a pressure. Now we get to this part, and the moon will square the nodes and oppose Pluto. And the nodes are activated now because of Mars. Because Mars hit that conjunction to the South Node this week. Because Mars is still in a conjunction to the South Node as it starts its square to Pluto. There's an activation with this opposition of the moon and Pluto. There's an activation whenever the moon hits the square to Mars. That actually happens first. In a lot of ways, the moon's square to Mars is pushing for a reaction, pushing for an action. You gotta call him. You gotta go. You gotta do this. You gotta face him. You gotta see him. You gotta do it. I don't want to do it. I don't care. You gotta go. You have to do it. Not everybody's going to do it on the 7th. For a lot of people, what's going to actually happen is going to happen on the 8th or the 9th. But right here, there is this push towards Pluto to turn something around, to get something corrected, to get something handled. The moon is going to hit this opposition to Pluto. And it's going to make us face something, face a fear, face a trauma, face the past, face a trigger, see the transformation, see the condition. Previously, we were not fully aware of something. What's going to happen over these few days is our awareness of an event, an awareness of a change, an awareness of a certain thing. It happens. It changes. Venus dancing at this 28-degree mark, where she was when she turned retrograde in July, while the moon hits this opposition to Pluto and reactivates that other energy from July. Mars is involved now. And the thing is, when Venus started her retrograde that week, July 17th to July 23rd, Mars had an opposition to Saturn. There was an action that took place, but the timing wasn't right because Saturn was just newly in its retrograde. It had only been in like a month and a half. Not even a full month yet, I don't think. This is different. There's a challenge. Mars is going to square Pluto before it goes into Scorpio. Mars and Pluto both rule Scorpio. This is an accepted challenge that's going to happen. There is an event that's going to lead to a turnaround in the next week. And it happens somewhere between the 7th and the 8th. So let's keep this going through the 7th and into the 8th and why I'm saying all of that. The moon hits the square with Mars. The moon will hit its opposition to Pluto. After that opposition to Pluto, the moon is going to go void. So whatever we're facing with the moon's opposition to Pluto, like we're dealing with it for longer than a day or two. Our awareness of something is going to change as we get into the moon going into Leo. Now the moon will go into Leo at 6:26 p.m. Central Standard Time. So for those that are listening to audio only, I've got the screen at 7 p.m. on the October 7th Central Standard Time. The moon is newly in Leo. Our awareness of something is changing. It is altering. It is being turned, whether we decide we're going to turn it or not. Venus is now at the 29-degree mark. There is something that's going to happen between Saturday and Sunday that is going to be a humbling effect. By the time we get to that time frame, the humbling is setting in. The ego will not be as strong in an energetic sense and an astrological sense. So let's keep going. 6:26, the moon enters Leo. We keep it going. Go into Sunday, the 8th. In the earlier parts of the morning, the moon is going to hit a sextile to Mercury. That goes the most exact between 6:30 and 9 a.m. This is like texting with your girlfriend going, "Hey, how did your dinner go last night?" "Great. Did you guys get your shit figured out?" "We're still talking." "Oh, you want to tell me about it?" Like, no, I'm still with him. We're still talking. What? I'll fill you in later. Our awareness of something is changing. You get that little check-in from somebody like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, we're still talking. Oh, okay. After the moon goes through its sextile with Mercury, not a real heavy transit until we get into the evening time. So I want to specifically take this to the evening time. I'm going to take this to 8 and 9 p.m. So first off, here's 8 p.m. October 8th, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Mars and Pluto are going through their exact square. At 8:11 p.m., 11 minutes after the screen, Venus goes into Virgo while the Mars-Pluto square is perfecting. 8:11 p.m. Central Standard Time. Adjust for whatever you need to for your own time zone. That's a very important minute. So if you're the East Coast, that's 9:11. If you're in the West Coast, that's like 6:11, 7:11. I don't remember how the time zones go over there. I don't even remember if you guys like take on daylight savings time. Anyways. Whatever it is for your time zone. For me, it's 8:11 p.m. For some of y'all, it's going to be different. Mars and Pluto are in their square. Venus is wrapping up her trip through Leo, and it is hosting Mars as Mars is going through its square with Pluto. There's a reactiveness, there is a tension, there is an argument, there is something that sets in whatever events play out somewhere between Saturday and Sunday will have a long-term effect. It will have a humbling of the ego. Not only that, after Venus changes signs, it immediately enters its opposition to Saturn. We have an immediate reaction, an immediate thing that follows through with questions of authority. Considering the Venus-Saturn opposition will actually perfect on the 9th. But before this part starts, we have Jupiter, the host of Saturn, in this square with the moon. There's something here. Something from the past. A questioning of past events, of past situations. Reflection. There's a release, a letting go. And knowing that something's not going to be the same way anymore, but also realizing that whatever reactive event, Mars square Pluto right here, whatever this reactive energy is, it's going to be immediately met with challenge. It's going to be immediately met with a medical professional, with a doctor, with a lawyer, with an authority figure, with somebody of a higher level of strength. The adultier adult. We get the first questions from that adult. For some people, Sunday evening. For the rest of us, what happens is going to be on Monday morning. Because that's when Venus will have her opposition to Saturn. Energetically, it will start Sunday evening, but it will actually perfect on Monday morning. Simultaneously, Mars will be going through its square to Pluto. We will still be in this energy Monday and Tuesday. The thing is by the time we get to Tuesday evening, Pluto's going to turn direct. There are a set and series of events to this week that are going to lead to a turnaround. It's going to lead into a turn into what area we've had a power struggle with, where we have had fears, where we have been traumatized. There's going to be a turn in that energy, a turn in the events. Parts of us we need this week to happen so the turn can happen. For some people, this week is a buildup. For some, this week is a diminishing energy of step by step of lowering something, while another thing kind of takes shape. Before a new thing can begin, something must be released. Before new chapters can take place, healing must occur. Before we can progress into the new area of life, we have to absolve certain things. We got to let go. Some of us, we're not ready to let go. And what's going to happen as the week progresses is going to be a last straw event. For a lot of people, Mars and Pluto is going to be a physical event. It's going to be a physical knockout, drag-out fight. And once that fight occurs, the awareness of Venus is going to change. Her awareness of what's been going on is going to change. Our awareness of her is going to change. Once Venus goes into Virgo, mutual reception changes. Now here's the deal. The first half of Libra season, the Sun and Venus have been in each other's sign, and there hasn't been that full indecisive quality that we would normally have with the Sun in Libra, because it's been a mutual reception. Now, there will be some hesitancy. There will be some indecisiveness. We will not allow for emotion to just take over. We will not be so forthright. There will be a hesitancy. Because what needs to happen next has to be from a logical standpoint. The facts, the figures, the receipts. By lining out the facts, by lining out the receipts, by lining out the figures, by getting everything put together the way it needs to be put together, we get a different picture in the story. For the majority of us, this week is going to be a slew of energy that mounts into a hyperactive perfection, a hyperactive event, and culmination. And for a lot of people, that culmination is a physical event, a physical, tangible, real life event. And for a lot of people, it's a reaction. For some people, you're going to have a reaction with almost no concept of what responsibilities lie on the other side, what the consequences will really be. We learned the consequences next week. This week, we're struggling with getting our facts straight. We're struggling with the information. We're struggling with what we're getting told. But after it sets in, whatever it is that gets told, whatever the diagnosis is, whatever has going on below the surface, whatever event happens, something else is going to set in. And we're not going to be triggered the same way anymore. We're going to eliminate this thing that has been triggering to us. We need this week to finally allow for the things that have been coming from a point of ego to fall away. So logic can take full aspects forward, full steps forward. For a lot of people, the start of the week with Mercury's opposition to Neptune, it's going to be about illness. It's going to be about something physically going wrong in the body. And we won't realize it until we get through the full motions of the week. Trial and error. Did this medicine work? Did this work? Did this work? Did this work? We're looking for what the reaction is. We're looking for what's going on under the surface. We go from one type of scan to another type of scan to another type of scan to another type of scan. We're trying to figure it all out. And sometimes that's still not enough. And we still end up doing like some level of explorative surgery. We think we know what's wrong. We think we just need to get in there and just take something out. For some people, there's lies. We thought we were over the lies. We've known about some level of misinformation or fraud or something along these lines. We've known about something, but we thought we were working through it. And then you see enough and you're like, you really haven't learned your freaking lesson yet, have you? Okay. I'm going to make sure I'm not reacting the wrong way. You go double check a few things, look at a few things, and nope. You ain't learned your lesson yet. Bye. You haven't learned your lesson. And more people are taking steps back. We gotta let some people fall on their face. There will be an element this week of somebody falling on their face. And after that occurs, it's going to lead to the turnaround. It's going to lead to the long-term needs of disruption and chaos and physical changes. Those long-term things start to set in next week, after the 12th, going into eclipse season. Right now, we're in a transition energy. We're getting close to starting new things. We're getting close to new ideas and new ventures, but we're not quite there yet. Got to work out some final details this week. There's a lot of finalities. There's a lot of overcoming, but this overcoming leads to things later on. It leads to that level of change. It leads to something being able to turn around. Sometimes the only way somebody ever learns their lesson is to truly feel like everything's been pulled out from underneath them. Some of us have no other way to learn our lessons but the hard way. I'm speaking from experience in some ways. I've had plenty of times in my life that the only way I was ever going to learn the lesson was by learning it the hard way. We're not willing to live vicariously and learn through somebody else. No, no. No, no. We need the hard lessons. There can be some hard lessons. Doesn't have to be. But I feel like for a lot of people, they need to see that hard lesson firsthand in another person, or they need to experience it themselves. Okay, I really hope that everything went through the way that it was supposed to. If not, then you're going to get a whole hour of just my face because I'm tired of trying to record this over and over again. So, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. If you have any questions, you can message me through the Spiritually Bougie page. You can message me on Instagram. You can message me on WhatsApp. I'm doing my best to answer those as best as I can. This last week, like I said in the full moon in Aries video, I had a lot of things going on with my family. And then once the full moon in Aries perfected, I felt like somebody had run me over. I was energetically exhausted and physically exhausted. And parts of my weekend was just about like just recharging my batteries. So I love and appreciate every single one of you. Hit me up with questions, hit me up with concerns, and I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.